선택하는 삶보다는 선택받는 삶. 딸도 이 삶의 유쾌함을 느낄 수 있었으면 좋겠소만.
Hello! Today we're going to be talking about the Nursefather Yisong identity because it's new. It's based off of the final boss of Canto 9. It is what was voted for, and also because it's something that I would like to do. I hope you enjoy the video and all the information I'm about to throw at you. So this Yisong in particular is an index identity, meaning that he follows what are known as prescripts. Essentially, at the beginning of every turn, if you were to hover over the little prescript icon underneath him, it'll tell you what you would have to do to follow the prescript. And if he were to successfully follow the prescript, he would gain 1 grace of the prescript and will also heal 4 SP. And then if the target was targeted by the prescript, there's a little flower on them, he'll instead gain 8 sanity and gain 3 grace of the prescript. And while he's gaining these grace of the prescript, he'll only get his unlock passives, which will heal him for extra SP every single turn, and will also eventually give him access to empowered skills, and also Shin if he gets to unlock 3. If he does not follow a prescript, he will instead gain Karmic Consequence, which will give him defense level down and fragile depending on how many stacks he has. However, if he is at unlock stage 3, he would not gain any Karmic Consequence at all. So at that point, you can just go nuts with his skills. Alright, so this Yisong, every time he were to use a coin attack, he would use a different weapon, with each weapon having a different chance depending on what attack it's used. There's about 9 different weapons. I'm going to go through each of them one by one, and just having a number on what they do. The first weapon does blunt damage, and then if he hits without cracking, he'll gain 2 poise. The second weapon does pierce damage, which will inflict 2 sinking without cracking. The third weapon does slash damage. It deals extra damage, and also if he hits without cracking, he would gain 1 offense level up per turn. The fourth weapon does pierce damage with extra damage, and also inflicts 1 defense level down. The fifth weapon does blunt damage, does extra damage, and raises to target stagger threshold by 3. The next weapon does slash damage. It deals 15% more damage and inflicts slash fragility. The next weapon does pierce damage. It deals extra 15% damage and also inflicts pierce fragility on the next turn. The 8th weapon does blunt damage, dealing an extra 15% damage and inflicts blunt fragility. And the last weapon, the scythe, does 30% more damage, does slashing damage. It has a guaranteed crit without cracking, and also on his skill 3-2, he's guaranteed to use that as the last coin. Alright, beginning with the skill 1 like usual. His skill 1 is a blunt skill that gives him extra coin power for every 6 points on self plus sinking on the target. If the skill is marked with the mark of the prescript, he will gain 1 in clash power and deal 20% more damage. He will convert coins equal to how much unlock stages he has into unbreakable coins, starting with his last coin that gets used. Using the skill gives him poise count. He will also gain 2 poise and will inflict 2 sinking if the skill doesn't crack. However, due to him having a bunch of weapons, he has a higher chance of this skill to produce a blunt weapon, depending on how much Karmic Consequence he has. The more Karmic Consequence he has, the lower of a chance he will get to pull a blunt weapon. His skill 2 is almost identical to his skill 1, with some minor changes, such as he will gain 3 normal poise instead of count on use. When he uses the ability, like when he hits them, he will inflict 3 sinking, he'll gain 2 poise count, and will inflict 1 extra sinking counts. And this skill is a pierce skill, meaning that he has a higher chance of producing a pierce weapon, depending on how high his Karmic Consequence is. And of course, this guy's extra coin power as well. So for his skill 3, if he has 9 Procuration Hermes at the beginning of the turn, he will instead change the skill to his 3-2, but we'll talk about that here in a moment. What this skill does is it's a slashing skill, so like the other two, it has a chance of producing a weapon, but this one will prioritize slash weapons depending on its karmic consequence. If the skill is marked, it'll do extra damage. He'll get extra coin power for every 6 points on himself and sinking on the target. He will convert the coins into unbreakable coins, depending on how much his unlock stage is. And now here comes the fun part. He will gain 3 poise count and additional regular poise equal to his unlock stages just for using the skill. And then when he hits the enemy, he will gain 3 poise and inflict 3 sinking. He'll do extra damage for every unlock stage on himself. On crit, he'll gain extra poise. And on hit without cracking, he'll inflict 3 sinking count. His skill 3-2, Furioso Replica, based off of the one attack Roland does in Library of Ruina, however you pronounce it. It is a 9 coin skill attack, and what it does is, if there is coin power put to it, instead of it getting increased coin power, it'll increase its final power by 5 for every net coin power increase. And will deal an extra 25% damage. This skill that he has, 3-2, cannot be affected by Paralyze. And you also gain final power for every 6 points on self, plus sinking on target with max of 2. Now, when the combat starts, he will convert all coins on the skill to unbreakable coins. He will inflict sinking or gain points every time the skill hits. He will not gain procuration for the turn. And then when he uses it, he'll gain plus 3 to clash power. He'll gain 3 points and 3 points count. And then after the attack is over, for every person he hits, they will gain 5 burn, 3 bind, and 3 fragile next turn. And the attack will consume all procuration. The final coin will always be fixed as Scythe, dealing an extra 90% damage on a crit hit, and will inflict 3 seeking count. Now, the downside to this skill is that it is an unfocused volley, meaning that for every target that is in the attack away afflicted by it, it will have a chance of attacking them, which means that it will just go back and forth and can sometimes attack the same person. So while it's a really funny skill considering it's 9 coins, it's really nice, but unfortunately it could just end up targeting the wrong person, which would be the only downside to this, besides the fact of the build-up. So, for his defense skill, if he's at unlock 3, he'll gain 2 coin power. At the start of combat, he'll gain 2 poise count. He'll gain 2 poise for every evade that's successful. And then its main effect is, if he is not at unlock level 2, he will gain unlock level 2. It'll increase his Grace of the Prescript stack to 6 to insinuate for him being at unlock 2. However, he'll gain 5 karmic consequence for every grace that he gained via this effect. Which, while it's good for a nice quick boost into his unlock state, it will make it harder for him to get the right weapons on his other skills. Alright, so this Ji-Song has a good amount of passive, so we're going to go order, and then we're going to talk about some stuff I didn't explain earlier, as I'm not re-explaining the stuff like the prescripts. His first main passive we're talking about is the Index Nursefather, and essentially when he enters an encounter for the first time, he'll gain Wound Casting Mask, which gives him 2 offense level up, but minus 2 defense level, and makes him take less damage from unopposed attacks. And then if he were to either get staggered and then recover, or if he uses skill 3-2, he'll take off the mask and it will get converted to Sizzling Wound, which will give him 3 offense level ups. Minus 3 to defense level, he'll take less damage from unopposed attacks with minus 25%. However, he will start gaining burn and bleed every turn, and he will deal more damage with the base attack skills. And so one of his other combat passes is Imitation of a Life, and what it does is he will deal extra damage to skills marked with the prescript for every Grace of the Prescript he has on himself. And then if he has the max stack, he will deal 20% more damage, because in the last one, he's going to do a maximum of 16%. Every time he hits an enemy with an unbreakable coin, he will gain 1 Procuration Hermes. And then at the end of the attack, he'll gain that Procuration Hermes equal to the amount of remaining coins on the attack. And then if he uses skill 3-shield, he'll gain it next turn equal to the amount of the skill's remaining unbreakable coins divided by 2 rounded down. And then if he has the max stacks of Procuration Hermes, but the skill 3 is not on the board, it will change one of the skills to skill 3 and immediately apply the Procuration to turn that into skill 3-2. So his next passive is support passive is Grace of God, and what it does is when it's active, is allies will deal extra damage with slash, piercing, and blood damage the first time they use those attacks. And then the index identities will deal 10% more instead of the 5%, and then the effects are applied before the attack happens. And now for his last two little tidbits he has in his passives. If he has Unlock 3, he'll gain Shin Fade, increasing his speed. He'll gain more poise, potency, and count from his base skills. And then if his sanity is higher than the targets he's fighting, he'll do extra damage for every 3 difference. And however, enemies without SP are considered to be at 0 SP. And then he'll also give Desire for Acknowledgement sated to the Index Prosti Don Quixote when they're both on the field. And it's a cute little icon of him essentially giving her a head pat. And she will deal extra damage to skills marks with the mark, and will do extra damage against the targets as well. And so essentially what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to use his prescript skills against prescript targets to gain grace and also unlock, so that you can start building up procuration so you can proc that extremely high powered 9 skill attack. So that's just it. And thank you all for have been watching all these videos I've been putting out. They've been really fun to make, and I'm enjoying them, and I'm glad you guys are too. If you have any identities you wish to see, put them in the comments or put them in the Discord server, and I will try to make videos on them in the future.